Hello creatives, welcome back to my channel. Today we are going to be diving into Illustrator on the iPad once again, learning how to create self-portraits because there are lots of instances where you are going to need a self-portrait. Whether that is for social media, online website, or your online portfolio, for a portfolio presentation, anything like that, you're going to need a self-portrait at some stage. So I figured it would be a good time to explore how to create a self-portrait. Now, I will be using a reference photo of myself. I do not have a photo on the artboard. As you can see here, there is none. I will be doing it by line of sight. I do have a reference photo out of frame here, but you are more than welcome to import your own photo onto the artboard and work from that. So if you guys haven't already, go ahead and give this video a thumbs up if you like these types of videos, and subscribe if you haven't already. Turn on your notification bell as well, so that way you don't miss any of my uploads, and let's dive in. I'm going to start with a really small artboard. Now this depends on what you're using your self-portrait for. It is 300 pixels by 300 pixels, or about 4 inches by 4 inches in size. So it also is at 300 dpi in RGB color mode because there most likely will be in RGB, but if you want to print it, make sure it's in CMYK. You have your photo on your artboard. It will be on the first layer, and you will need to go into your layers panel over here on the right and tap the plus sign to create a new layer in order to make sure that you don't touch the photograph. Also, make sure that you lock your first layer if you have your photo on the artboard. I do not, so I'm going to be skipping that step. I have my photo right over here, so if you see me looking down over here, it's because my photo is there. I'm going to start on layer 1. We're going to be using the pen tool for this. I like to start off with a very simple color for skin tone. I'm just going to select my fill color by tapping on it over here. If you slide down, you see where it says color books. You can select on that, and there's a whole range of color books here. And choose solid coated. Pantone plus solid coated just means like your basic matte solid coated colors. So there's multiple tones in here, so you can pick skin tones through this as well. If you're working from your own photograph, you can very easily just choose the eyedropper tool right here, select anywhere on your image, and then pick up that skin tone color, and that will be the color that you can go with. I'm going to go down into here. I'm going to swap these two and get rid of the fill. So in order to swap fill and stroke, there are these double arrows here. You can just tap on them and they swap the colors. So we don't want to fill, because what we're going to be working with is mostly the stroke. If you have the fill color on when you are illustrating, you won't be able to see where you're going because the color wants to fill up the shape you're creating. So it's not the best way to work. Make sure your color is on the stroke and you have your pen tool selected. And then for those of you who have your photo on the artboard, you can just start following the outline shape or the shape outline of your face. The face is the easiest place to start. I'm just going to be going by line of sight and creating the shape of my face right now. Do not have to be super careful at first. I'm definitely not going to be. You can always go back and refine these later. Once you have your basic face shape down, you can always go back into this point selection tool here, which is the second icon in the left toolbar, and you can move your handles, you can move your points around so that way it looks the way it should look based on the photograph that you choose. And remember, this does not have to be completely 100% detailed if you don't want it to be. It can be very simple. You can make it cartoon-like, you can make it comic book-like. It's completely up to you how you want your self-portrait to look. I will say though, you do need it to look and represent you. So you can't make it so like far out there to where it literally doesn't look like you. Especially if you're using this as a portfolio piece to showcase to prospects as far as getting a job. Make sure that the recruiters or the hiring managers know exactly what you look like. I did not do the hair or the neck or the shoulders, and that's for a very specific reason, because with self-portraits you want to start with the face first. You can include the neck if you want to, however I find it a lot easier not to at first. That's personal preference. Work and see which way is best for you. As far as the nose and the lips and all like the features go, you don't want to do that right away. Get the overall shape of the head and the body first. That way you know what you're working with, so you can more accurately place the eyes, the nose, the mouth. So that is my face shape. You can pause this video, take your time with this, no need to rush. I just increased the stroke weight for you guys so that way you can see what I'm doing. This is the overall face shape that I'm going to go with. From here, I'm going to do the neck and then the shoulders. I'm going to do the hair last as far as the overall shape. So all we're looking to do is find the overall shape of both the head, the neck, the shoulders, / the body from like chest up, and then the hair last, because hair can be quite tricky. Let's go into creating the neck and the body. I know a lot of people have this, I'm going to call it a misconception that you have to know how to draw well in order to become a graphic designer. And I'm going to let you know that that is completely false for the most part. There are some things that you need to know how to draw as far as like perspective wise and such like that, but really you don't have to have like a massive amount of skill in drawing to be a graphic designer. Like that's a very like common misconception. Don't be concerned completely with being like, oh, I don't really have drawing skills. Well, it's fine. Not every graphic designer does. I do, because I wanted to be more focused in illustration and graphic design together, but not everybody has those same goals. You see that I wasn't super careful about the top of the neck. I just wanted the basic shape of the neck here. This part doesn't matter. Why? Because it's gonna get covered. Like, it's going to get covered by the face, because the face is technically going to be on top, so I should really rearrange my layers. So I'm going to continue to do the shoulders. I think I'm going to do the shoulders, and then we're going to focus on the hair. So again, take your time with this. Pause the video if you need to. If you want to watch first and then pause and then go back, by all means, however way you work in order to know how to do this, go for it. Now, if you guys are a little bit confused as to how this is all coming together, let me select face, which I did not name my layers. I'm going to swap the stroke for the fill. Okay, so this is kind of how it's looking. So you can see that the first layer is on top, that's the face, and then I have the body covering up the neck, because with the body, usually your clothing covers up your neck, and then the neck is the last layer here. So that is kind of the order I have, and this would be a great time to remind you guys to name your layers. So double tap the name of the layer, which is just layer 1, and then I'm going to put face, clothes, neck. You can be more descriptive if you want, but that's just how I do it. Alright, and now I'm going to work on the hair. The hair, I'm going to put on a new layer. Whenever you're doing a section of your body, you want to put it on a new layer, because it's so much easier to work on new layers rather than having everything on one layer, especially when it's like big pieces, like the hair, the face, the neck, the body. It's easier to have them all in separate layers, so that way when you go to do the details, all of the details on that specific part, like your hair or your face, could be in this layer, but you don't want your hair and the face to be on the same layer. Does that make sense? I hope so. I'm going to add a new layer, double tap it, and call it hair. Alright, everyone's hair is different. Hair can be very tricky. As you can see, my hair is very like curly, it's very wavy, it comes in different shapes and sizes depending on the day. I typically like to do portraits when my hair is up because it gives it more of an overall shape that you can see. However, I do have a self-portrait that I did when I was in college, and I'm going to pop it up right there on the screen for you. That one I did when my hair was down because my goal wasn't the shape of the hair, it was mostly the lighting effects on the hair, which I wanted to showcase because I wanted to challenge myself while I was in college. Yes, I know. So I did, and I think it came out really good. That was my first ever attempt at a self-portrait, and it was way more detailed than what this is going to be, I feel like. So if you want to challenge yourself on lighting and shading, because that is where the true testament of skill is going to be. However, for this video, I'm just going to give the overall shape of the hair, just like with the face and the neck and the body. Choose my pen tool. Again, flip my fill for my stroke. Always remember to flip your fill and your stroke. You want to work with the stroke on, not the fill. I'm going to start over here. You kind of have to pick and choose what area of curl you want to follow. Quick tip in a portfolio submission, you always want to make this look as closely related to yourself as possible. You do want it to somewhat represent what you look like in real life. And you guys, let me know in the comments down below any questions you might have, anything you want me to address or go over. I'm more than happy to. I know that with these, it's very subjective, so let me know anything that you are struggling with, because I am more than happy to help. Oh, and another quick tip, if you guys have hair kind of like mine where it's curly and frizzy and kind of like all over the place, if you have like stragglers, like, how can I showcase this? Like, if you have stragglers that are kind of just like hanging out, the good thing to do is to ignore the straggler and get the overall shape of the rest of the hair, because you can always add the straggler in later as like a little accent. When you switch your fill and your stroke color around, you really get to see the overall shape of what it's going to look like, so you can then choose from there whether or not that's how you want it to look or not. Now we're going to work on some detailing, and the detailing is where all the fun begins. So in my photo, I have cutouts here and here on the shoulders. I think I am going to create those. When it comes to the face, create a secondary layer for you guys and put it under the face layer, and that is going to be like a little bit of a guide for us. And swap our fill for our stroke. When it comes to faces, faces have planes. Your planes of your face are like, there's a center line, there is a cheekbone shelf line, and then your nose like kind of like guides down the center line. The cheekbone line also helps to guide where your eye line is or where your eyes sit, and that also helps to determine the ears. So where the ear is here, that's where your eye line typically is. So ears, if you don't know, the tops of your ears pretty much go right through the middle of where your eyes sit, typically. So I'm going to draw with the brush tool a blue color. There we go. And everything is based off of a curve. A third of the way down is your eyes, and then a third of the way down from that is the base of the nose. The latter third is the lips. So you have your eyes, bottom of the nose, and then kind of like the middle of the lips is kind of like where it goes. And then your eyebrows, it's different for everybody, but particularly your eyebrows usually go lower thirds from the top of the head. I'm going to start with the eyebrows. Let's go back to that face layer. Now remember, this layer is just a guide, so I'm gonna lock that layer that we just did all those on so that we don't select it, but we can keep it as our guide so that way we know where we're going. You're just looking for the overall shape of the eyebrows, not individual hairs. Well, that's detail work for later. You can choose to duplicate the shape by pressing the little 2 pages icon here on this quick selection menu that pops up and flip it. It is going to be too big because this side, well, at least on mine, it's going to be too big because this is too long. However, I can always disproportionately resize it. There you go. That's the eyebrows that we're going with. How are you guys doing? You guys doing okay? Again, if you mess up, it's okay. All you have to do is just press this undo button up at the top toolbar, and then you can reselect with your point selection tool and move the points around, then keep going. There is something that my fine art professor always said, that the only way to mess up is to quit. So if you feel like you're messing up, don't quit, keep going. It'll get better. It's a really great quote. Eyes can be tricky. What you want to do is have the overall shape of the eye first. Are you guys noticing a pattern here? It's overall shapes first that you want to capture. So for the eye, it's whatever shape your eye happens to be. Mine are kind of like almond shaped almost. My eye shape kind of follows my eyebrow shapes. So I'm going to start right over here. Okay, so it's kind of like an overall eye shape. You're literally just creating the cutout of whatever your eye shape looks like as a cutout for your eyeball. Again, you can always select that shape, duplicate it, flip it with that align icon. So there's a flip section in the align panel where you can flip it vertically and create the other eye. I would also like to let you guys know, when you're doing a self-portrait, like if it's not dead on or if it's not like side profile, but it's kind of like a 3/4 like this, the eye that's closest to you in the photo is going to be bigger and taller on the face, like higher on the face than the second eye, which will look to be smaller and lower. So keep that in mind for like perspective. Now we have our eye shapes done. I'm going to show you guys a cool little trick that you can apply here. So let's choose the eyes and let's switch our fill for our stroke. I'm going to select our face shape, switch our stroke for our fill. We're going to select the eyes first. Let's see, are they the highest on the, yeah, they're the highest on the layer. Okay, so make sure your eye shapes are the first 2 things on the face layer, and make sure the face itself is the last thing on the layer. Select the face, make sure you tap on them in order. Go over to this double page icon over here, which is the 4th icon down on the right toolbar. This is your combine shapes action minus front. Select that and it punches out the eyes. Our eyebrows disappeared. Let's go back into the layers panel. Our eyebrows disappeared because whatever is getting cut out, that bottom shape that you're cutting the items out from gets pulled up to the top. So all we gotta do is just choose our face shape, drag, hold, and drop until it's in the last position on that layer, just like I did there. And then your eyebrows are magically back. Now let's do, I think we can do nose and lips. So for this portion, your nose doesn't really have a defined shape to it. Now you may be like, well, yes it does, because when I turn this way, you can see it. But when it comes to illustration, your nose doesn't have what we call actual lines. They have what we call implied lines. Now, implied lines just means that it's just lights and shadows right next to each other that gives an illusion of an actual sharp line. I'm going to do a placeholder. For the nose, the only actual shape that is made with what we call actual line is like your nostrils. Make sure that with your nose shape, where your nose meets your Cupid's bow, that's where it should be sitting on that guideline, not the tip of the nose. The tip of the nose should be above it. going to do the eyes next. For the eyes, since we want them behind the face shape here, we're going to be in the face layer, select a new layer, add a new layer. I'm going to drag and drop it just below that grouped face layer that we had earlier. For this one, you can do a very generic circle shape by tapping on the shape icon twice, selecting the circle, making an oval. My eyes are green, so we're gonna do our iris. Is it an iris? Next, I'm gonna choose a nice green color. Tap and drag. Always duplicate your shapes, guys, wherever possible. Now we get to add in all the details, which basically just means adding a lot of shadow, light, and accents. If you want to do specific eyebrow hairs and lashes and such like that, this would be the time to do it. Also, feel free to make some fun little shapes in the eye. Earlier when I mentioned that there are going to be implied lines, the implied lines are made up by shapes, and the shapes are usually shadow. Now you can make these harsh shadows or you can make them light shadows depending on the style you're going for. I typically like to make them soft shadows just personally. With this one, I'm going to be using a gradient, mostly going to be a freeform gradient. I really do enjoy the freeform gradient. It gives you lots of flexibility. Let's add a freeform gradient to this. I have my swatches already selected here. For gradients, you just pop on over to gradients in the fill color here. There are three options. There's linear, radial, and freeform. We want freeform, it's the last one. So there is some points here that you can drag and move around. I'm going to drag and move around these guys. And you can also add points by just tapping anywhere in the shape. It's gonna look very strange when you're working in it, but just keep going and it will get there. Now we have something that kind of looks like this. And the more details that you add in this, depending on your style, the better it's going to look. You can also mess with the transparency with areas like this where I did the neck. Figure out what works best for you, and the only way to do that is to try it and to keep going. Don't want to quit, especially right before you get to the good part. I really want them to make shape-to-shape blends in this program. Please, Adobe, make shape-to-shape blends in this program, because that would be so nice. For hair, especially like with curly hair, straighter hair is much easier. For curly hair, it's a little bit more tricky. You have to pick and choose what areas you want to focus on when it comes to light and shadow. Let's do the outline. And we're going to do some shapes. We're going to do some specialized shapes. So let's try, let's see, I have light coming over here and kind of down here. So we want to look at the shapes on the hair, and if you squint, you can see the shapes a little bit better. If you focus on the lighter, like on the light hitting the hair, you can see the shapes better. They're usually very jaggedy, almost like cartoon texture in a way. So I'm gonna start. Now that we have our self-portrait mostly done, the last step is to add highlights. Now, the highlights can be minimal or they can be quite extreme. So it depends on the look you're going for with every stage of this. Typically put highlight right on the edge of the nose, just like you would like if you were doing makeup. So I'm just going to do like a really little highlight here. You want your highlight tones to be as close to white as possible, so I'm gonna So wherever you would normally see highlight on someone's face is where this is going to be. I'm pretty satisfied with that. Alrighty. So I hope this video helped you guys learn and figure out how to create self-portraits for yourself and for your work. And if you like this video, go ahead and give it a thumbs up and subscribe if you haven't already. Also, I do have some other pen tool videos if you have not seen them, basically all the basics. That playlist, along with my Patreon that I just launched, will be linked in the description down below for you guys. I will see you all in the next video. See you soon, creatives.